paid to attend Coachella. I know you might be thinking, what? How? That doesn't make sense. You're not some influencer or something like that. No, no, I'm not. But I promise you, if you kick it and just chill and listen to the story, it'll all make sense in the end. So, real quick before I get into all that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who supports my channel, whether it's watching a short or watching these videos. I'm really trying to trim them down and get straight to the point. But if you're returning, or it's your first time, or you're here by accident and you're like, I'm gonna see what's up, I appreciate you. And I would really just, the only thing I would ask is if you could subscribe if you're not, and that's not even that big of a deal, you know? It's not the end of the world. So, now that I got that all out of the way, I can get into the story. So, this took place around 2013, okay? So, one of my first jobs I got out of high school was being a security guard. And I got a job with a company that you've probably seen them at either a basketball game or some kind of sports game. They wear yellow jackets. They're usually at like USC, and they're at like raves and like all sorts of different events. So there was someone, the guy who kind of like started that was kind of related to like the city I was in. So he employed a lot of people. And not that that's how I got the job. I got the job just because they would hire literally fucking anybody. So I got that job, and I knew like a handful of other people that had that job as well. So they would give out like little assignments or whatever, and they would have, events coming up, or, you could work the Hollywood Bowl or whatever. So they had Coachella coming up, and I, thought that it would be kind of cool. You go out there for a couple of days, and then you would camp. And I had a friend who also worked for the company, and he was going to go work it, so we decided to go together. And that friend's name was Julian. Okay, so me and him were going to work, and then when we were going up there, we actually had another friend that went with us named David. And now David, he was not working for the company at all, but he ended up pulling some pretty like slick shit where he basically pretended to work for the company. Like, he did all the same steps that me and Julian did when we got there, of like signing in and getting a number like for a tent, because the security camping was like right by the entrance. So it was like a really, really good spot to be camping at to go. So he wanted to come, and he just wanted to take advantage of that. So he was able to finesse his way into that like no problem. No problem at all. So it was cool. We had our tent, and like we had like a dab set up, and we were taking dabs, and we were smoking all that. So we got there like Wednesday, we left, and then got there like Wednesday evening, and then Thursday we had like the day, and then Friday was when we started working. So Friday, me and Julian wake up to go work our shifts, and we were working the morning shift like early in the morning, like 4 or 5 in the morning. And the way that they did their thing was they would give you this wristband, and it had a barcode on it, and you would go up to this like barcode scanner, and you would scan yourself to clock in and scan yourself to clock out. So we're in this like building, and there's like a bunch of people that are like us, because there were people from Fresno, there were people from like all over that I guess came to work that. So we're like sitting there, and my friend Julian notices that like we're sitting there and he's just playing with his wristband, and he notices that his thing slides all the way off. And he had already clocked in, so he noticed it slides all the way off. And he just like, I saw his face when he did it, and I tried to do mine. Of course, mine doesn't do that. So he's like, oh, what? So he ended up like, I was like, I wasn't tripping on him or anything. He went back to the tent, and he literally just like took his uniform off and just like went and chilled. And I went and worked my position or whatever, sitting in a chair guarding a parking lot that nothing happened. I was literally just chain smoking cigarettes like the entire time. So what would happen is I would get off of my shift, and then when I would get off my shift, I would come and I would wake him up, and then we would go clock out together. So what he was doing though was, instead of, it's not like he was just sitting at the campsite all day. What he was doing is, him and David, they were or David, he had tickets. He had a wristband to get into Coachella and stuff, but Julian did not. So he was sneaking into Coachella every day, and then he would come back, and then when I would get off work, I would wake him up, and then we would go scan our things. So that was just like the format. And he came through clutch for me one night that like, it was so boring doing security and just being there. Like, the highlight of my thing was running into 2 Chainz. He like parked in the wrong parking lot or whatever, and I was like, oh. And then Julian came through one time, and he brought me a bacon wrapped hot dog when I was like really hungry, and it was just one of those moments where I was like, yes, like that was like, it was just a perfect little like sustenance. So anyways, it comes down to the last night, and I go and I work, and it's, my normal shift, whatever. I come back to the tent, and I open the tent, and I look in the tent, and I see Julian, and he's laying there, and he has a sling on, and he has his arm in like a splint. Like, it's not a cast, but it's like a makeshift like cast. And he just has this splint, and his like shirt is off. So I'm like coming into the thing, and I'm like, yo, like, what happened? So what happened was, at our little spot, there was this place like for the like employee camping, that it was this big power surge that everybody charged there. I never charged my shit there. I don't know why people used it so much. I don't know. But it was just this place where everybody would go and plug their shit in. So that was just kind of like in the middle of stuff. So what happened was, Julian had to hop a fence to get out of Coachella and into the security part. And of course, it was one of those fences where they have like the spiky things that like go like that people have them on their house sometimes. So he actually was coming over the fence, and his shoelace, he had like a bunny loop type like loop in his shoelace, and it got caught on the thing, and it like ripped his whole shoe. Like, I saw his shoe, and it was like ripped down like the whole side of his shoe. It was pretty crazy. But like, that's what happened, is like his whole weight like got caught, like, because his shoe got caught right there. So he tried to go forward with his weight, but his shoe got stuck, and something happened with his arm, and he like dislocated his arm. I don't think he broke it, but he like dislocated it or something. So he ended up actually going to the hospital out there in Indio, like having to go there and whatever, and he ends up getting on like workman's comp, because he's actually able, and props to him for thinking fast on this one, that when it happened, like, because he was literally hopping back into the area, But he said that he was walking and he tripped over one of the wires of all the wires that were hanging out right there, which was like the perfect thing to say because that was like a very very plausible thing that could happen. So he said that's what had happened, and they were like, yeah, and they were like totally like believed it and everything. So they let him go to the hospital, and like we that was the last day we were gonna leave Indio that day. So we left and, drove home, whatever. He ended up even getting a script for like some Norcos or something. And, like, even after that, like, I got paid because I actually worked. I was the only one that really, like, worked. But this fool would be sending me like DMs on like Instagram and like other stuff like months and months and months later for like 6 months. He's sending me pictures of checks that he's still getting from working that weekend at Coachella. And I was just like, damn, dude, like this motherfucker, he didn't work 1 minute and he got made like 8 times as much as me, and he got to sit on his ass at the same time and do it. So he, yeah, very lucky individual. So, anyways, that's the story of getting paid to be at Coachella. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you guys all have a nice day. Peace.